A busy Sunday, and the NBA continues with this breaking news. The Brooklyn Nets are trading Kyrie Irving to the Dallas Mavericks. That's been confirmed by our Bill Ryder. The Mavs, in return, will receive Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a package of picks in return. That haul includes a 2027 second-round pick and a first and second-round pick in 2029. The trade ends a 4-year run for Kyrie and Brooklyn, and with that, he now takes his talents out to Dallas in the West Conference to join a squad that is 6th in the Western Conference currently. You take a look at that package. Markieff Morris also will be heading to the Mavs to join forces with Kyrie and now Luka Doncic out there in Dallas. The Nets, we mentioned, in return will get Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a few picks highlighted by that unprotected first-round selection in 2029. We mentioned Bill Ryder, so it's only right that we bring him in right now. Bill, this shocking news. We knew that Kyrie likely was going to be traded ever since he first announced that he wanted to be traded, and that news broke. Now that you see that it ends up being Dallas and not some of the others like the Lakers or the Clippers who were in the running and wanted to bring in Kyrie, what's your reaction here?
Yeah, Zach, my reaction is it's a pretty nice return for the Brooklyn Nets. I know yesterday several folks, including GMs around the NBA, were just skeptical whether, given Kyrie's struggles and difficulties and some of the issues that have made him less appealing to other teams out there, given all of that, whether Kyrie would command the kind of return that Brooklyn was certainly going to want, because they're effectively giving up on their season. It is not a bad haul for Brooklyn, given the circumstances and given the fact that Kyrie had not only said he wanted to be traded, but in the last 2 hours, the reporting had come out that he might sit if he wasn't moved. And when you're in that kind of a corner, it's sometimes hard to get what you want coming back. I think Brooklyn did that. And now the question becomes, is the juice worth the squeeze for Dallas? Sources yesterday told me they were one of the 2 or maybe 3 teams, the Lakers and maybe the Clippers, who would be interested enough to perhaps drive the price up. They've surrounded Luka Doncic with a star. He's obviously mercurial. It'll be very interesting, Zach, to see whether or not this leads to success for Dallas the rest of the way.
Yeah, we'll certainly circle back on Brooklyn and what this means for them going forward. But you look at this Dallas squad currently sitting at 28 and 26 in the Western Conference, 9.5 games back of Denver. We knew that they needed another piece. That became very apparent, especially when Luka missed some time, and you heard Jason Kidd say they need someone to step up. That was at one time Spencer Dinwiddie. But ever since losing Jalen Brunson, it seems like that they've missed him desperately. So now they get a piece like Kyrie. What can this do for Dallas?
It depends how you view Kyrie Irving. He's a litmus test. He's a Rorschach test, I should say. People see in him whatever they think about Kyrie Irving, the player and leader. I can tell you some GMs out there think that he is worth whatever difficulties come with Kyrie Irving, and some don't. I'm probably in the camp that is skeptical it's going to work out, but Zach, you hit on it. You've got another all-world scorer. You've got help for Luka Doncic, the kind of offensive help that you have to have, especially when you get into playoff basketball, best-of-7 series, rotations that shorten up, defenses that tend to improve, half-court offenses. You're not going to run and gun as much. And so if Kyrie can replicate not just his talent, but the success we saw him have with LeBron James in Cleveland, Dallas becomes absolutely good enough in a really crowded Western Conference, especially with the question marks around Steph Curry and his health. Dallas becomes good enough to be a real contender. We've seen Luka Doncic carry this team basically by himself. They had Brunson, but basically by himself to a conference finals. And so Kyrie Irving's addition on paper, an issue becomes, Zach, and the reason not as many teams were in a bidding war for Kyrie Irving as they might have been 2 or 3 years ago. And we've seen Kyrie hold his organization hostage. We've seen him miss time for a variety of reasons. And the stats are the stats. This is a Brooklyn team that has been statistically better. They've won more games when he has sat than when he has played. So it's hard to know who you're getting in Kyrie Irving, but for a team like Dallas, desperate to do something right now and to surround Luka Doncic with someone, it's a risk that makes sense.
Is it a risk that you think is going to be worth it? Kyrie's contract is up at the end of this year. Do you think he would consider re-signing there, or is this just a one half of a season opportunity for Dallas to strike gold here?
It's a great question. It's the big question. I guess there's a few answers. One, that would be quite a sizable gamble by Dallas if they don't think Kyrie was going to stick around. I was talking to a league source yesterday, literally asked him, Zach, the exact question you asked me. If Kyrie goes somewhere that's not Los Angeles, California. So Dallas was the example I used. But I said, let's say it's a Dallas or a Chicago or somewhere that we haven't had indications in the past Kyrie wants to stay. Will he stick around if he's traded there? And this league source, familiar with Kyrie's thinking and familiar with some of the teams involved, told me the view around the NBA is that Kyrie simply wants to find a place that he can win and that he can get paid, an organization that will pay him, let's say 4 years, more or less a max deal. So I would assume, Zach, that Dallas is back channeled with Kyrie Irving and the people representing him, and that the understanding is that they will offer him some kind of a deal that he's amenable to, and that he will take that deal, which is, I guess, a long-rounded way to say, yeah, I think he will stay there. I can't imagine Dallas would have made this move if they didn't think he was going to stick around. But again, the Nets also thought they were getting something in Kyrie Irving. They didn't. We know Kyrie can change his mind. So it's an open-ended question. I think he'll stay, but you never know where Kyrie's going to be in a month or a couple months after this experience in Dallas and whether it goes well or whether it goes badly.
I think one thing that's for sure you really can't debate is that Kyrie's the top 5 point guard in this league right now when he's out there playing. How does he match up with Luka on the field? Who's going to be on the court? Who's going to be the one on the ball? How are they going to make that work? And will it result in success?
Well, I'll respectfully disagree. I think it is debatable, and I think that's the big issue with Kyrie. And again, this is me just referencing people who run NBA teams around the league, not my perspective. Some people think he's a top 5 point guard, and some people think that he's not. And I think that's part of the reason you only had 2 or 3 teams that were in the mix here. But to answer your question, if you come down, and Dallas does, on the side that this guy is that talented and is that capable, he does one of the hardest things there is to do in the NBA. He can go and get you buckets by himself, create his own space, create his own shot, break down defenses when he's in the right spot, when he's in the right fit, especially, and we've seen this with LeBron and with Kevin Durant, when he's surrounded by another all-world player, and certainly Luka Doncic is that. The upside here, the ceiling for Kyrie Irving, is that he's more than capable of playing like a number 2 on a championship-level team. He can help, as you noted, if Luka Doncic, let's say injured, but just not having to load the minutes up on Luka. He can take 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 36 minutes in a game here or there and be the offensive focal point. He can't do it night after night after night. We've certainly seen that in Brooklyn. So it's a huge offensive help. It's a huge secondary weapon. And when we get to the postseason, because all the stats people will throw at you about Kyrie not being as effective in terms of winning over the course of his time when he's on the bench versus starting, those are all regular season stats. And even though the Nets have struggled at times in the postseason, it's a different game, as you know, Zach, in the playoffs. The ability to go out there and have one guy who can win you a game or a couple games is huge. Kyrie Irving's one of those players in the NBA. You put him with Luka Doncic, and it makes Dallas a lot more dangerous, potentially, than they were.
I just want to touch real quick on Brooklyn now, the other side of this trade. What does this mean for them going forward and the potential for KD? What happens with him now?
Yeah, another great and critical question. I mean, I don't know because the people that I've talked to don't know, but I can tell you there are some hungry GMs for talent who have been making calls and are anticipating the possibility that Kevin Durant could be available.
Viewers, we're joined now by senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski, the man who broke this news. So, Woj, can we just start here? Why now? Why did this trade request come about, and how?
Malika, Kyrie Irving wanted a commitment on a long-term contract extension before the season was over, not this summer, but ahead of this trade deadline. And the Nets have not been willing to make the kind of commitment in years and money that Kyrie Irving has wanted. This goes back to last summer when they wanted to see a consistency in not just his performance and availability, but his ability to stay controversy-free, keep the focus on the team. That obviously has not happened this year after his suspension with the promotion of the anti-Semitic film on his Twitter page, and all that went into the aftermath of that. And I think the Nets' stance has been, let's continue to play, let's try to continue to win, and get to the end of the season and see where we are. But I don't think there's been enough of a body of work yet, I think, for the Nets to make the kind of commitment Irving wants. And now, you look at the trade request ahead of Thursday's deadline. I'm told it did not come with any preferred teams. The market is limited for him. Teams who would bring him in, who would want him as part of the organization, but also what is their willingness to give him something closer, the entirety of what he wants this offseason. Certainly, listen, the Lakers are going to have interest in talking to the Nets, I'm told. But for Kyrie Irving, he may be in a similar situation as he was last summer, where by asking out now, he doesn't necessarily have that max offer to walk out the door with next summer. But certainly this Nets team has been upended by this trade request today, which largely again came because the Nets and Irving and his agent could not agree on terms of an extension that would have started with next season. And Irving did not want to wait till the offseason to continue those conversations, I'm told.
Woj, I think the natural sort of next question that folks look at is where Kevin Durant potentially could fit into all of this. We know that for now he's sidelined, but looking forward, where does that come into play?
I think that's hard to know right now, Malika. I think Kevin Durant was looking forward to playing with Kyrie Irving when he returned, to see what this team could still be. The Nets certainly had an opportunity here to try to improve themselves before the trade deadline. But I think there's just, once again, uncertainty there. And I think it's difficult now for Kyrie Irving to walk back in this locker room between now and trade deadline and just go back to work. I'm told, listen, he's been good around this team lately. I think everybody was very optimistic. He certainly had been performing at a high level, but away from the court, he had been very, I'm told, consistent and in unison with the group. He's carried a very big load and done it really well for the most part with Durant out. But that all changes today with a trade request. And I think Brooklyn has to kind of huddle and decide how they want to proceed here. They're not going to get overwhelming offers for Kyrie Irving. I think there may be teams. I think Brian was very astute in the list of teams he went through that will probably check in. But the idea that you're going to give a massive haul to Brooklyn for a player that you've seen once again is leaving, wants to leave an organization in the manner with which he's doing now, as an organization, how soon before he does that to us, and how much do we want to give up when we've not seen a consistency on or off the court in availability or in any other number of things. But again, I think the Lakers, perhaps for the right price, without having to completely mortgage their future, and it's uncertain whether the Lakers would want to commit the kind of long-term guaranteed money to Irving this summer, but as something of a rental, as a player who certainly is super talented to put in there with LeBron James. It's going to be a conversation, I'm told. But I think the Nets have a chance now, ahead of next Thursday's deadline, to try to figure out how they want to proceed here.
Very interesting. Woj, thank you. We will